Marianne fan club.
She's a one-person network.
Marianne, that's how I found out about the event.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Marianne Pagano. I am Chief Executive Officer of Blackhawk Data. I want to welcome everyone here in the room who gave up the time to be with us today, as well as everyone watching online. This is our September/fall Women in Tech event. I appreciate everyone giving out their time because for me this is a really important moment for me for giving back to the community that's done so much for me, and this is my moment to thank everyone and encourage and help other people. So this is a really super big moment for me. Watching the community grow and people start to add to this community and get larger and larger is just an awesome way for me to feel great about what we're doing. So right now what I want to do is introduce our panel. We're going to go around the panel. They'll give you a little bit of background on themselves, who they are, their journey into tech, and then we'll get into some questions. So we'll start with Helen, you're next to me, so you win.
I don't know if everyone noticed, but I clearly look that way so that I wouldn't go first. Hello everyone, I'm Caroline Pino. I currently am a regional sales manager covering the Northeast for Extra Hop. My journey into tech is unusual to say the least, but I think relevant to the panel today on branding and personal branding. Finished school in Orlando at UCF, and I made my way, right after graduation, a week later, I had a one-way ticket to Italy. And I lived there for 2 years, and I worked for the United Nations. I didn't even know what the United Nations was at the time when I got there, so I'm not some bigwig. I just kind of fell into it. But it let me stay there long enough to be able to travel and kind of get around. After some stints around the rest of the globe, 5 years later, I made my way back to the US, and I was working for Seagate at the time, but in their kind of retail-focused hard drives. And I remember I was on Facebook, and there was this woman on Facebook who I maybe met once or twice during college. I didn't really know who she was. But I knew I loved what she was doing. I loved everything that I saw about her life and what she was doing at work. And I remember seeing her and being like, huh, I could do that. I don't know what she's doing, but I think I could do that. And I think that also kind of goes back to see her, be her. Reached out to her, we grabbed dinner, and she ended up introducing me to my first enterprise tech, as I like to call it, enterprise tech boss at the time, down in Florida for a reseller. And it was just kind of by chance and gut feeling that I kind of ended up in this industry and staying in the industry for that long.
I only laugh because I know that as I'm the older one in the crowd, people say things like Seagate. They're all like, what? Who? Hard drives? Like, what?
Yes.
Hard drives.
Right? And I'm not a technologist at heart, so even back then I was like, a hard drive, sure, but I'll sell it to you. I'll figure it out.
That made me laugh more than the United Nations comment. Yeah. I sold Seagate too, so I don't know what that was. Anuja.
Seagate might be the common connection. My first job was in a storage startup, but to just take a few notches back, Anuja Singh, I'm the Vice President for Customer Success for a quantum technology company. We make quantum computers, slight ways off from Seagate and hard drives. My journey is a little more conventional into tech. I have a master's in electrical engineering. But I came from India to study, and my degree was in radar sciences and electromagnetics. And when I graduated, most of my peers were getting jobs in NASA and Martin Marietta, and no one told me that you need security clearance for jobs like that. So here I was with a master's degree and no path forward because I was on a student visa. So my journey of risk-taking kind of started from there, and I came to New York to find a job here, and it was the times of, it was just before .com, it was the Silicon Alley of the East, and I got a job with a startup back then, as again, dealt with Seagate. but pretty much did not stay in a place for too long. And I think that's my story. And as we try to connect the dots, it's really trying to figure out what's next, not just for me, but technology changes so fast. So just kind of keeping your nose to what excites me, what do I want to do? And I moved from that startup company to another startup company. And the biggest company I worked for was Cisco, where I met our host here. Even in Cisco, I worked for a startup. So I think the message here is wearing many hats, not staying in one place, but trying to find what is the next thing that'll make my experience more whole than what I have. And that's kind of what got me from Cisco to Amazon and now at IonQ.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jen?
Over to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, I can't tell you how honored I am to be here with these amazing industry titans. I'm Jen Waltz. I am the founding vice president of Global Alternate Channels. And what that means is basically every road outside of direct sales and enabling partners to sell our technology. I work for a company called Crone Technologies. They've been around for 20 years. They're based in Turkey. Now, my story is a little unusual. So I like to tell people that my journey went from cookies to cloud to consulting to cybersecurity. So I got my start in sales as a Girl Scout, and maybe some of you women can relate to that, and maybe some Boy Scouts with your popcorn sales annually. But I always took a big sense of pride in being like leveraging my network to help me provide people with what they wanted. At the time, it was cookies. And I loved being at the top of the leaderboard and leveraging my mother and father to help me use their networks to sell my cookies. And I would pre-sale, or my parents would have parties, and I'd go, so I can put you down for how many boxes this year? So I was already pre-selling. Anyway, so I went to college. I went to a college, and I was recruited by a dark fiber company, which became the precursor to data centers. The company at the time was called YIPE, YesIP, that's fast. They were a venture capital company and also a internet provider based out of San Francisco. And they were doing some hiring at my university, and I walked up, talked to the guys. They hired me on the spot, and I was the operations manager. I was always a little nerd, and so I always knew technology, topology, T1, T3, all those things. So I was building fiber plant and working with cities, municipalities. And there was a salesperson who left, and they said, Jen, since you're doing all these other things, can you call up these accounts? And one account stood out to me in particular. It was American Can Company. My mom was a secretary there. She worked for a gentleman. And I called, and I told the gentleman, I said, well, I don't know much about American Can, but my mom worked there. He says, oh, really? Who's your mom? And I told him. And he said, oh, she works for blah, blah. I got an appointment, wound up selling this deal. It was huge. But because I wasn't in sales, I didn't get any commission on it. So they made me some little pittance of something, and that led me into sales. So I was recruited based on that. That gentleman who left American Can went to go work for Microsoft. And he said, if this woman is interested, we need to hire her. And I went to Microsoft, and I served in two roles. I was a direct sales person and then also a solution architect. And then I was recruited by Unisys, where I was in financial services as a direct global salesperson, then became over channel. And that led me to Equinix, where I served and had the largest team, very proud of that, selling to GSIs, cloud, hyperscalers, all the things. And that led me to Crone. So from cookies to cloud to consulting to cybersecurity, that's my story. And it's a pleasure to be with you guys today.
So for those that did not raise a hand and don't know me, I'll give you 30 seconds on me. I am Marion Pagano, Blackhawk's Chief Executive Officer. I have been in the solution provider space for 25 years, give or take. I have been an inside sales rep until one day I woke up and I was a CEO. So it was quick little transition, not a whole lot of prep time. So I'm still trying to figure out my role and my spot. I am still comfortable being an inside sales rep. I was my partner, Jason, that just woke up one day and said, hey, we're going to quit and do this thing. And I was like, sure we are, crazy. And here we are 6 years later, right? Still trying to make it work, still moving things forward. And, I think it's been a great journey. And again, I appreciate everyone. So today's topic was about building a personal brand. And I think for someone like me, who had to use her network and her brand, right, to get where she was, it was kind of a good segue from the last one they did in June, which is about your network, right? So building a personal brand. For me, I think one of the things I've seen, and Jen and I used to be on the same committee for CRN, which is talking about authenticity, realness, right? Just being uniquely you, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are drawn to what we do, is because we're just us, right? So I guess my first kind of question is, as we individually started our journey through tech or through whatever, selling cookies, right? How did we learn to build our brand, and what do we feel was an important part of that? Like for me, it was just being me. And I had a friend tell me that you're just creating a job as a CEO in your way. It's your way of creating, just rebranding that title into just being you, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to keep in my head. So let's talk a little bit about what you think early on you did, or you felt was important, or when you felt it was important to build your own brand.
Yeah. This is a great question. It's a loaded question.
It is.
I think we hear that often, right? Be you, be vulnerable, and that means so many different things for so many different people. I think I struggled early on kind of figuring that piece out, because everyone said be you, but I'd walk into a room full of IT folks, and I'm out there. I'm bubbly and giggly and make jokes and whatnot. And I always felt like that maybe wasn't the right approach. So I remember early on thinking to myself, and actually saying out loud multiple times, I should change this. I actually should, I need to wear a suit instead of my blue-green dress. I need to be a little bit more serious. I need to kind of simplify what I'm showing here. And early on, when my first bosses was like, please don't ever do that. It's refreshing. And I've heard consistently over and over from my leadership, from customers, from customers, senior executives, your approach is refreshing, and it's nice to just have a different energy in the room. And that's kind of how I see it now. And I didn't realize back then that was my personal brand. But now I take that very seriously, right? What's the energy that I'm bringing into a room, and how are folks feeling? How am I making sure that everyone kind of gets to that level also? Another big thing that I've kind of learned now that I'm being more intentional about my brand overall is, I hate to say this, LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been wildly rewarding, from building a network overall, meeting new people, following and learning from people that I would like to be like. But at the same time, I kind of spun off and was like, how can I take this to the next level? So I partnered with another woman in technology, and we created I like to call this a LinkedIn short form series, because it's awkward for me to say podcast yet. The imposter syndrome kind of fits in there. And it's called Humans of Tech. Mm-hmm. So I kind of get to blend in the part of my brand, the part of me, right, that I love, which is people, and being authentic and kind of digging in with people. And then the IT component. So we pull in senior IT folks. We first thought it was going to be friends and family kind of thing, where like
starts out that way,
right?
My mom and Jason just kind of watch.
Yeah, right. Like what sales friend will jump on this? But we've actually ended up having a ton of CIOs, CISOs from great organizations, and we pull out random questions. It's just 10 minutes, and we don't ask them about their career. We don't ask them about what initiative they're working on. We ask them how they want to be remembered. There's no time to prep. There's none of that. So it's this cool way of now being authentic, but also kind of crafting what my image looks like to other people outwardly.
Yeah. It's just so important for your image, right? Because you don't realize that when you're doing it naturally, right? You're not really building your own image. You're doing it naturally. I think that's what kind of, makes it that unusual.
So those of you who are early in your career, firstly, congratulations and kudos to you for being here, because I don't think I had any concept of what a brand is or that we should be thinking about it way back when. I think when I started off, I just wanted to stay under the radar. I didn't want anyone to look at me because I was the only woman in the room. I didn't want to, I just dressed the same and just let me do my job and let me just go. And I think it took some time to realize that that I had a voice which meant something, and that people were listening once I knew what I was saying. And then to me it was, well, where's the status quo? What can I do about the status quo? And then I would always seek out those opportunities. But then the big thing for me, which I think defined my brand, was we all have a platform. So what are you doing with that platform? How are you bringing other people along? And I think the defining moment for me was while I was at Cisco, we had a very robust internal women's network. But as most people know, Cisco has a huge channel business. Like, it's a channel company. And we had nothing that we were doing for our channel partners. And the fact that I'd worked for startups, I realized that when you're in smaller companies, you really don't have the network. Right. So it was that opportunity to create something or use the existing platform to create a much larger platform. And that's when I realized that the brand that I was striving for was multiply impact by challenging status quo. The big realization for me was, as with any good thing, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And for a while, that was my brand. Oh, yes, she's good at what she does, she's doing really well, but she's she's diversity, she's focused on diversity. And that's when you realize that any brand has to evolve, because otherwise you get typecast, and then that becomes your one pillar. And I think that's been that was the biggest aha moment for me. Yes. Was, all right, there's so much more. Now, how do I bring that forward? And I think those are the opportunities like LinkedIn or by speaking at panels like this. So putting yourself out there by really, all of us have to show all those multiple facets, because otherwise it's like you get typecast into one or two things. So that was a big learning and aha moment for me, which has truly been wonderful in helping with my career.
That's awesome. Did you work for Maria Martinez?
At some point, yes.
So we share that in common, because she used to be my boss at Microsoft.
Nice. Before she went to Salesforce.
Before she went to Salesforce, right, in financial services.
Yeah.
So your brand is everything. So when I was recruited by Microsoft, I'm young and, I'm trying to figure out everything. And there were some really gems of wisdom that was told to me by a gentleman by the name of Michael Johnson. So I wanted some time with Michael, and I wanted him to coach me, because he was one of the most senior persons of color in sales at Microsoft. And me being a woman of color, I'm 4 different things. My father is white and Native American. My mother is black and Cuban. So when I look at this room, I can identify with all of you. So one of the things I wanted to do as a leader was, I wanted to coach to greatness. I just didn't want to, make my number, but I wanted to figure out ways to work with all the teams. And I set some time with Michael. And Michael, he says, okay, we're here. And I didn't have an agenda. I just was just there, not knowing what I needed. And he coached me on, number one, have a board of directors, right? People that know you no matter where you're at in the company and can speak highly of you where you can. So basically being highly matrixed. And that was huge to me, just those random conversations you can have with someone in an elevator or in sitting next to someone on an airplane, how I was able to grow my network and have people know that I could see myself in them and we could have a conversation, right? And so now here I am, 25 years from being a 19-year-old girl starting with Microsoft. My brand is authentic. My clients, if you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you can go back and you can see my first client that I sold and what they wrote about me. And that they said I was fair, I was honest with them, I told the truth even when it hurt, And if I couldn't get a deal with them at that point, that was fine. They were still a friend of mine because at some point they were going to need me. And that has helped me enormously in my career. Now, being a part of Women of the Channel, you know, I'm going from direct sales to being in channel. My brand, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I don't know this woman. She's never been in channel before. Well, actually, I was. I was working for people, building up their systems behind them, but never getting the credit. And so when I met people like Marianne and other industry titans that poured into me, they talked to me about the power of belonging. And so I belong to every group that's out there. It doesn't matter if it's partnership leaders or Women of the Channel or a WIT network. It doesn't matter. We're all in sales, and we need to have those connections that are important because that strengthens our brand. Back to you, Marianne.
So it's funny, we talk a lot about social, right? You know, my mom reminds me all the time, oh, if social was there when you were younger, you'd have no friends. And she's probably right. Because I was a terrible kid. You know, but you look at it now, right? And social is so important to us, right? You spend a lot of time on social. I certainly spend a lot of time on social. I see you way more on social now than I did, right? And I think it's important to kind of balance that, right? Because sometimes you kind of get reeled into conversations and stuff like that that you want to stay away from, and because you're trying to stay true to your brand, right? Yes, my brand is honest, authentic, but you need to stay away from conversations that maybe lead you down the wrong path, right? Or get involved in a conversation that's not really about business in general, right? You know, so I look for, and I tell people it's really important because as you're building your brand and you're building your network, as it goes together, it's important. Like, you like things that I say, I like things that you say, right? We kind of do the same thing. We share things out. And I think that's a really big part of it. So for me, social, as much as I never want to ever admit it, you know, between LinkedIn and everything else, right? You will not see me on TikTok dancing. Do not look. I am only on Facebook, intentionally, and LinkedIn, right? So I promised my niece I would never twerk on anything. This is as far as we get.
Okay. Oh my God.
I love it.
That's
Now I want to
amazing.
see Marianne twerk.
I already have the image. It's in my mind.
End with this.
See it happen.
It's over.
It's probably generative AI.
Right?
Oh yeah, great,
Exactly.
thanks. Good job. Oh, now I can't go on anymore. I made myself laugh. Oh God, I lost my footing on this one. That's just took me. So let's talk about. I can't get myself back together. Business brand, personal brand. I've always struggled with that, right? Because sometimes I'll be like, oh, why can't I come with you? Well, it's a kind of a business thing, right? Because I do think my business brand and my personal brand, while are very similar, there's still differentiators between the two, right? There's still a little more corporate in me when it comes to business, although I really didn't prove that. But there's a little more corporate in me, right? Because I still have to be a professional, right? Forget about title. I still have to hold myself together. I remember so many times when you were at Cisco, I had to come to you and say, all right, I'm in a meltdown, right? I can't get the support I need. Someone's going to jump in and kind of help me. So, like, how do you balance your personal brand versus your professional brand? I have a hard time doing that, so it's hard for me to really kind of guide everybody.
Yeah. I'm an oversharer, so naturally,
So am I.
I go off the deep end real quick. But in a one-on-one setting, that's very hard. If the conversation's flowing, I'm gonna blend a lot. So I can't help you there. What I will say with social, though, there is an art. There's an art and a fine dance, because I do believe that, and we'll say social, we'll just talk about LinkedIn. Instagram, Facebook, that doesn't count here. In the LinkedIn world, if you're only showing professional things, so your marketing feeds or whatnot, you're not going to get engagement. Nobody cares. You don't exist. But then at the same time, if you're only posting personal things, you're turning it into a little bit of an Instagram, right? Which is also not what people are looking for. So my rule of thumb when I leverage that platform really is, can I show things from my personal life, but have a reflective thought around how it matters to the public, right? What did I learn? What did I get out of that? So like, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but if I go to a conference, it's not the picture of like, oh, look at us at the conference, woo! It's more like, hey, I was at this conference, woo, but this is why this conference was valuable in my own voice, right? Was it the people that I met and the connections that I got from it? Was it what I learned from a different panel? Was it what I learned off of the panel? What are those nuggets that you can hand off to people? And I think that's the way of tying it together, where you can show a little bit of who you are and what you do on a regular day basis, but at the same time, make it valuable and meaningful, right? We go through all these experiences. Let's learn from each other from our day-to-day experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to add to what you said. I completely agree with everything you said. For me, I do bring personal into work, and that is actually part of my brand. It's empathetic. My team knows that because I'm bringing my whole self, they can bring their whole self. I want to know. I show that I care. Even when I have to lay someone off, I show that I care, right? Because I think there's some unavoidable corporate things that you have to do, but you can be human about it. And I have never shied away from that, even though that may not have been the right corporate posture, because at some point you have to sleep at night. You will leave that job, you'll go somewhere else, but your brand will follow you. So that fairness, or there's just that empathy, because the roles could reverse very, very fast, and you could be on the other spot. So I think that part I do not separate personal and corporate. Social media, I completely agree. I mean, we all know there's a debate tonight. I'm not going to be talking about it right now. I'm not putting anything on social media because when I'm on social media, I'm representing my company, and I need to be aware that comes with a responsibility. So I think those are just things to keep in mind. I will say that, as Marianne knows well, I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I wrote a blog while I was going through my treatment. I shared that out on LinkedIn for that very reason, because adversity is adversity. And while you're in a corporate role, you're dealing with personal challenges which impact how you work, which impact everyone around you. And many times people don't know what to say to you. So it also kind of gave permission for people to know it's okay. I'm sharing, and it's perfectly fine if you don't want to share. That's okay too. So I think it's responsible correspondence while staying true to yourself and having a responsibility for your organization that you represent. It's not always easy, but when in doubt, if you're questioning yourself, don't do it. It's listen to that. Should I do it? Don't do it.
Absolutely.
Especially not publicly.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'll build on what you and Caroline just mentioned. So personal brand and corporate brand. I like to say that I'm the same person. And I might not talk about everything, right? Like you mentioned, there's a debate. And, people don't need to know how I feel about the elderly or our children. But I think, at the same time, it's something we all care about, right? I do make sure people know I have a sense of humor. Like one post I put on LinkedIn was, how you're in the grocery store and you hear music and all of a sudden you find yourself, you're jamming, you're doing this. Well, that's something we all can relate to, right? Because we're all not just talking about technology or our companies and things of that nature. Now, I do have a corporate responsibility publicly on social media like LinkedIn. I'm a prolific LinkedIn user because I believe in the power of network. If there is a way that I can amplify your message to the 10,000 people that I'm connected to, let's get that out there. Let's talk about how I can, help make sure people know who you are and what you sell. But I do believe that people know when you're not authentic and genuine. And I think people avoid that. And so when they know that, like you mentioned, you're a breast cancer survivor, I'm so glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
And things are well.
Yes.
I am the parent, a bonus parent to a child who has Down syndrome. And I'm an only child. I was raised by an Air Force veteran who fought in several wars. So that's my thinking, tough, get over it, all the things. But at the same time, my human side is my daughter, who I didn't give birth to, but I share this with her mom and her dad And so I make sure people know that about me, that I do care. It's important for people to know that you do care about them, and it's not transactionary, right? You know, we all here, we have families, and I think when you're talking about who you are as a person, I think that makes it easier for people to want to work with you. When you know that you're married, or if you're not, or but you're a parent, you know, whatever challenges you have, I do think that there is room professionally to talk about those things so that you share commonality and there's a connective tissue between you and that person that you're setting across.
I think we're losing tolerance for transactional relationships, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's building a long-standing relationship with partners, right? Some people have been friends with a really long time. I've known Anuja for a good 20 years, right? You know, Diane Candell's out there, Laura Gillen comes all the time, right? So there's so many people who kind of keep coming back, and we're friendly with each other, and we keep that network together. It's nice to see Lori was here last time, Diane is here today. I mean, it's really nice for people to keep coming back to support and to help each other, right? While we're on that topic, Anuja, I'll turn to you, right? I know many times when, working at Cisco, again, I walked into a room and there was meetings going on in the public sector space, and you were the only woman in the room. But when I walked in, I looked at you and you were able to command the room, right? You were able to get the respect that you deserved in that room. So give a little advice to people out there who are in the room, and there are many women who are always in the room with only men, right? How you were able to kind of just command your space and, hold true to who you are.
I felt the imposter syndrome all the time. Like, you thought I was commanding the room. I guess I act well. No, it's real. It's real. It's awkward. And again, initially, I'm much older now, so I'm much more comfortable with myself. But when you're younger, you're just awkward. You don't know your space. You're not an expert. And I'd like to just expand this. You could be the only woman in the room. You could be the only person of one color in the room where everybody else is. You could be the only, you feel people can look at you and know what your gender preference is and whether they can or they cannot. So there's always going to be an exception. Like, you're always going to be an exception to somebody in the room. And I think this applies to everyone. So this is not just a woman-man thing. But to me, know your stuff, or know your shit. Like, if you know it, then people are going to listen to you because you are speaking from a position of strength, and it's your strength, and they cannot doubt your knowledge. So I think in this particular case, knowledge is power. And then you work on your soft skills, and then you work on looking at someone when you're speaking to them, and all that is coachable. And I think knowing when to seek for example, even here right now, I have seen something in 3 of them, and I was like, oh, I need to work on that more for myself. And I want to reach out to each of you and say, hey, coach me a little bit on that, or I'd love to just observe you a little more. So I think just knowing a little bit of self-awareness, a little bit of that board of directors, hey, help point out some blind spots, ask for feedback, and then just constantly say, I want to be better, because I don't want to be there just because of a statistic. I deserve my position, I command my position, and I'm going to make sure I leave something behind so people understand what I'm saying and want to hear more.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So Caroline, you're up next. So my question for you is, I ran into you a couple of weeks ago at one of the events, right? And we were talking about how you've been a remote worker for a while.
Always.
Right? Always. That's right, always. Talk a little bit about how, as a remote worker, right? Because there are a lot of people who either want to be remote or are partially remote. How do you keep relevant to the people that you need to be relevant to?
Yeah, that's a good one. So early, you have a before and after COVID, right? Before COVID, I think that was really easy because as a salesperson, you worked from home, but your life wasn't at home, and everyone understood you were never actually home. You were in front of customers. You were out, you were at lunch, you were at dinner, you were in meetings. And then COVID happened and everything changed. I actually used to have 2 screens. I took the screen out because I was certain that we'd go back to normal. And I didn't want to get comfortable having 2 screens. I still wanted to be able to send emails on the road and all these things on the road. That doesn't exist anymore. We spend a lot more time at home. So what I find is helpful is I had a mentor Give me a list. I may not remember the 5 things right now, but I have it in front of my face all day long. And on days that I'm either feeling like I'm not accomplishing much, or on weeks where I've probably stayed home a little bit more than I needed to because we're doing virtual meetings and no one really wanted to meet in person, I look up at the list and I'll do something from it. And it's very simple. Call a former colleague and tell them something that you admire about them. Reach out to a partner or a tech alliance and invite them for coffee tomorrow. Like, let's go to coffee tomorrow. Not scheduling in a month. Let's go to coffee tomorrow. Write a handwritten note. There's the one that I'm not going to remember, and take a walk. Take a walk, I walk all the time, so that one doesn't count. But those first 3 are the key ones, right? It's taking time to say, hey, I'm going to bubble out of my email. I'm going to bubble out of Salesforce. I'm going to get out of this, and I'm just going to reach out and have a human connection that's not necessarily work-related. And people that I tell this to, I always say, after I'm done with that, it's like magic. My mood has totally changed, and something incredible has happened either with a personal relationship or that leads me back to work. So that's kind of how I keep myself on track.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Jen, let's talk a little bit about, so you and I met through Women in the Channel. You met through CRM, we met through some of Val's groups and some
One
of
of the
the
best days of my life.
You know, you guys kill me all the time.
You could tell we joke about it a lot.
So you and I have very similar interests, right? I think we kind of click because we want to help women in technology, or just people in technology, and help people bridge their networks together and build their brand, right? So talk a little bit about what you do in terms of kind of giving back to that community a little bit.
Absolutely. You know, although I mentioned, you know, belonging to a bunch of women's groups, you know, some of my best friends are men. My husband's my best friend, right? And for those of you who don't know, my husband, he's Caucasian. And so we talk, well, white. And so we talk. He's able to give me insights into things that I might be blind about. Does that make sense to you all? So, you know, one of the things that I love about our banter, and he's in agriculture, he doesn't know nothing I talk about. I don't know, but I know about cows and grains and all that stuff. But one of the things that we talk about is diversity of thought, because it's not about your skin color or your sex. It gives you a different lived experience. Does that make sense to everyone? Because the way society is going to treat you, talk to you, the way that you decide to act on those things is what gives you the strength where you can come in and have a conversation with someone else. And you might have gone down the same road, like talking to Anuja and Caroline. There's a lot of commonality here, but I guarantee you our experiences were different in those moments. And so to me, that's the strength of, you know, when you're bringing a network to the table. I embrace it. I mean, I want to sit across from someone who hasn't done what I've done. I want to learn. I want to talk to someone who can maybe help me cure all those blind spots that society makes us have, right? That we just kind of think tunnel vision. And again, knowing that we're all in this industry together, like, I want to know what it's like for you so that I can think about that and go, okay, how do we do X, Y, and Z together, right? So to me, when I talk about network, if I had to talk to a young person about the power of network, never, building on what Caroline said, your most minute interaction, I have gotten the most business by sitting to someone next to me and waiting, like if I'm on a plane, a bus, standing in line, and as soon as they engage with me, then I'm engaged with them. I met the CEO of AppDirect on a flight to Boston. Had no idea, and we were just talking, and it was late. And now we're going to be AppDirect's partner. We were never on their radar. Do you know what I mean? And we don't look alike. We don't have the same experiences, but we were able to find something, this connective tissue, as humans, to talk about. So.
And that's funny because I was on my way to Colorado for WPO's event with JP Morgan Chase, and a woman sat next to me. We started talking about it, and she's a woman of color. And she was telling me, oh, you're going for a diversity thing. Like, we were like, what? Where are you going? So it's funny because she took my cell phone number and everything, gave her my card. And, you assume, okay, I'll never hear back from them again.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of spoke to her 2 or 3 times already since she left because
Yes.
what she does, she wants to be able to do. She lives here in New York. We'll both be going to Colorado together for different events. And we've been speaking ever since. And she kind of picked me to help kind of mentor and get her through. I thought that was kind of cool because typically, you meet someone on a plane, you hand out a card. Yes, I meet people all the time. I hand out my card. I shouldn't, but I do. But it's kind of fun, I try to build my network. Keep it to normal people, but build a network.
Can I add to that just really quickly? So for those of you who are in technology or channel, there's a gentleman I suggest you follow. His name is Craig Booth. Just regular spelling of Craig, C-R-A-I-G, last name Booth, B-O-O-T-H. Craig, again, older, white gentleman from the South. And he has poured so much into me in terms of thinking differently about the way that I approach business, the way that I can go be more successful with channel partners. So Craig, if you're watching,
he's over there.
You are amazing. I'm so grateful to you. And so, again, I met Craig at an event in March, and boy, it was just like we knew each other our entire lives. So reach out to Craig, and he'll help you guys too.
So one last question as we're almost out of time, and then I want to plug a couple things at the end of upcoming events so people know. My very last question, which is my favorite question, is what would you tell your younger self? I'll go first. Let me take it.
No, I'm not.
I'll buy you time. You go last this time. What would you tell your younger self? So I am the epitome of, being the most confident, self-conscious person on the planet. No one suffers from imposter syndrome more than me. Right? Hard to believe, but yes, true. So for me, it is about don't let people tell you that you can't, or you shouldn't, or you won't be able to. I am the queen of having to get that out of my head. It is still in my head, but I try to overcome it all the time. Don't let people tell you that you can't do something or you're not capable of doing something. If something that you want to do, don't give up. Keep driving forward. Don't let anybody stop you from doing what you want to do. I'll do you last. Anuja. We'll go around the other
I
way.
had a minute.
Sorry.
For me, I think it's a little. I speak a lot to younger people. I do a lot of coaching and mentoring, and so this is an advice to the younger people, and then I'll speak about the advice I'd give to myself. But I think the big thing is it's going to be okay. I think everyone just takes so much pressure, grades and jobs and life, and sometimes you just have to pause, and it's okay. Like let life. And this could be because of my lived experiences that I'm saying this, but I honestly believe it that it's not all going to be working out just fine just because you want it to. But that doesn't mean that you have to go down and get depressed. So I think that's one for all the younger people who are listening. For myself, I think it's just not even imagining what could be possible. Like when I left India to come here, I had no clue what life was going to be, and I think just enjoying the ride. It's been such an amazing ride, and every corner is something different, and just like literally enjoying it for what it is has been absolutely amazing. And then the one last thing is don't be stuck in, I was an engineer, I was going to be a hardware engineer all my life, and I didn't. Sorry for all those years that I learned engineering. That's not what I do right now. And that's okay. And I love what I do, and I'm just learning new things about myself and my job, and the hunger for expanding your horizons, I think, is something I wish I had told my younger self, but now that I know it, here it is for all of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jen?
Oh, wow. Hard to follow Anuja's just amazing wisdom. Thank you.
So good. Me too.
I think I'm older than everybody else. It's reflecting into what is coming out.
I would say, I love the fact that you mentioned mentoring because that's so big for me. When I started in technology, there weren't anyone that really looked like me in the room. And so I think I'm going to stay in this industry as long as I can so I can be that person for other people, regardless of anything. I would say to anyone, number one, be fearless. Closed mouths don't get fed, right? So ask for what you want. Number two, raise your hand. I have had more opportunities afforded to me by raising my hand, and even though I just find the time, and I know that we're all constrained, and especially if you're in the channel, you're doing 1,000 jobs, but still, it's a way for you to burnish your credentials by learning something new. And I think number three is just don't assume, right? Think about it. I think coming out of COVID, the one thing, we shouldn't assume anything. This life is hard, and we're all struggling. We're all just trying to make it. So, that's the wisdom that I would share with you all.
Caroline gets to go last after
I
that.
wish I would have gone first. My goodness.
Yeah.
Mic drop. Mic drop. A couple of things. One, kind of echoing a little bit here of something I tell myself often. This is all a game. We're and treat it as a game. Be proud, right? I want to walk away from whatever I do proud of what I did, but unattached to that result because it's just a game. And two other things, actually. Two other things I tell my younger self is listen to that feeling. I think we forget that it's there, and it's actually such a great driver. If you are planning on doing something and it lifts, like if you inch forward, go head first, and if there's a slight moment of hesitation, go running in the opposite direction. And the last piece is I wish I would have realized earlier that there's no such thing as good and bad, right or wrong decision. It's just a decision. It's going to bring you to the next thing, and then from there you're going to have a crossroad. But it's all part of life, part of that game.
I love the spirituality which is tied into the corporate. So that's your personal, and it's true. It's true.
Guys, thank you very much. We are out of time. It goes really fast. Couple of quick things coming up, and then we'll kind of cut the feed. Thursday, myself, Christina, and Maria are doing a solution provider group for those in the solution provider space. That's the MSP space. That is the whatever space you want to call it. Check us out. We're going to have a group setting on Thursday. We also have something coming up in December, Women in the Channel CRN. Our Women in Tech will actually open up Women in the Channel East on December 9th. So come visit us at the Hilton. Jen and I, as the advisory board members, will be out there greeting everyone with Maria and Christina. The other thing is,
It's not just for women.
it's not just for women. There's a lot of men there now. We'll have a great panel. It's going to be a channel panel. It's going to be about channeling your success through the channel and talk a little bit about how we help each other. There'll be a great panel coming there. The other thing is part of what we carry with us now, thanks to CRN Women in the Channel West, is a company called Everfree. Everfree helps to support those that have been human trafficked. Yeah. So we as an organization have decided to put our money and efforts into human trafficking. So we're working on doing more and more for them and for that organization. I was very touched when I was at the West Coast and the small 12-year-old girl came out and told a story about being human trafficked. So that's kind of what we're going to do as an organization and put our time and efforts towards. So, look us up. We're out here. Lots of fun stuff coming up. Thank you very much to my panel and for my audience here. Thank you.
Kudos to you all.
Cut. We cut.